Hey y'all, it's Jason. Welcome to Marvel Champions Hero Pack Rogue. So this is one of our final X-Men characters, at least that we know of now. This is the end of this year, which is I think year 6 or however they season 6. So yeah, the other one was Gambit. So I also did a video on him you can check out. Check to see who comes out next after this. If they're gonna keep doing more Avengers or if they're gonna jump into another group. My guess, possibly Fantastic Four. It's the only other big main group we haven't seen yet. Because we have Avengers, Guardians, Spider-Man, X-Men. So yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. But we have Rogue for today, and that's what we'll focus on. So of course we're going to do modular encounter, and we're going to get our villain. There's our big giant poster of Rogue there. I will apologize right now for me trying to do a southern accent through half of this. If you saw my Gambit video, you will know I tried to do his Cajun accent, which was also very terrible. But that's what will happen. Alright, so we're going to look at some of the keywords that, if you've been following along, you've seen these, watched these before. But if you're picking this up after a base game, you might not have seen these. We have Stalwart. Character Stalwart cannot be confused or stunned. New keyword, Team Up. With your special Team Up cards, we'll go over that when we look at that card. New keyword, Teamwork. With a trait. After a minion with Teamwork enters play and engages a player, if there's at least one other minion that shares that specific trait in play, each minion shares the Teamwork keyword. The same specific trait activates against the player. So we've seen this before with the Acolytes. So like when one of the Acolytes would activate, all of them would activate. So it allows minions to work as a team and all attack at the same time. And then Villainous. Minion with a Villainous activate, give it a face down boost card from the top of the encounter deck when you resolve. Apply its boost icons to its stat for the activation. If the boost has a boost activate effect, activate it. And then there's some clarifications which we'll look at when we get there. So Rogue has the protection group. So out of the 4, what makes the most sense for Rogue? Let's start with our Anna Marie side here. So yeah, she starts with protection, which is all about her being defensive, which definitely makes sense, I guess, for her, because she's, if you're looking at her 90s most iconic form when she had the super strength and the invulnerability, maybe more so than like recent history when she lost all that, and sometimes she could access all her powers, sometimes she couldn't. But if we're looking at that classic version, iconic version, when she has all the super strength and invulnerability, protection makes sense. She's the first one to throw herself in front of everything because she knows she can't be hurt, or it's hard to hurt her. Also could possibly see her being aggression. She sometimes again tends to be the first one out in the fray. Leadership, not necessarily, not because she can't lead or she hasn't, but she doesn't do it very often. So I know leadership fits her personality or character trait the best. And the last one would be Justice, which is all about kind of like stopping schemes and thwarting. And she's again more of a physical, just jumping and do things. So really, yeah, defense, protection makes the most sense, or aggression would have. But again, that's just fun about this game. You can swap in anybody to do anything. So we have Anna Marie, 3 recovery, mutant, set up. Your touched upgrade starts aside, so we'll look at that one in just a second. And she has withdrawing, force response, active change to this form, set touched aside. You couldn't live my life. Oh god, that is a terrible southern accent. Hand size 6, hit points 11. Yeah, she has pretty decent hit points, which makes sense. Yeah, so when she's in her alter ego form, she's kind of hanging out. She's not using her touched ability, which makes sense. We flip her over to Rogue, her hero side. She's an X-Men. 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense, pretty good. Skin contact action. Attach touch to another character. You gain each of the attached character's traits, which are all the black words like X-Men or Mutant or Thief or Avengers, any of those, until the end of the round, limit once per round. Force response. After the player phase begins, find touched and set it aside. Okay, so cool. So on your action, you can attach it to another character. So during your turn, you can move it a round once per turn to somebody else. If for some reason you ever got discarded, you can find it after the player phase begins. You can find it and set it aside. So, yeah, you can pull it off and have it. So it means basically saying if it's attached, let's say it's attached to Wolverine as one of your allies, and then he gets defeated, then it would go to the discard pile, but this lets you then pull it back out and find it. And then when she flips over to her alter ego side, you set it aside. So if it was in play or wherever, she's not currently using it. So it's kind of a neat thing. It's an on-off ability. Yeah, so it's definitely a neat idea. And then she starts with it. So what does touch do for us? It has no cost. It's an upgrade. It's a condition. If touched is attached to a minion, Rogue's attacks gain overkill. If attached to the villain, she gains retaliate 1. Attached to an ally, she gains the aerial trait. And a hero, she gains stalwart. She means she can't be confused or stunned. So this is kind of a neat idea. So you're going to attach it to someone to gain their traits, which could be very helpful for her being able to use multiple different types of decks or cards that she wouldn't normally be able to use. Like you could attach one to a Black Widow to gain the spy trait, and then she could use a card that says only spies can use this. Or again, the same thing. Not making as much sense, but she could attach it to something that says Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy. You could use those because those are technically traits. Doesn't make as much thematical sense, but it works for the concept of the game just to make it easier. But the same thing, she also attach it to villains and minions, which are kind of neat. To gain some extra abilities there. And then again, she can move it around at the beginning of her turn to decide what she wants. Have it on the villain if you're fighting someone with a lot of who's attacking a lot, so you can use retaliate. Attach it to a minion if you're doing a lot of stuff where you're going to do damage to minions. But hey, there's not a lot of minions. You can pull it off. Aerial would help you gain some special cards that can only use the aerial ability. Definitely cool. Alright, then our signature ally is, of course, has to be Gambit Remedy. 3 cost, 3 health, 2 thwart, 2 attack. X-Men, he enters play with 3 charge counters on him. Interrupt, when Gambit attacks, remove 1 charge counter from him. Deal 1 damage to an enemy. Yes, this makes sense for Gambit. He starts with charge counters. Every time he attacks, he gets to remove 1. Also, usually whenever there's both an ally character and a main deck character, their cards have very similar theming, and this is Gambit. He puts charge counters on his main character as well. The Rogue one's kind of odd because in Gambit's deck, she just has tough, and she's strong, which doesn't really fit, but then again, it would have been weird to have an ally gaining an ability, having to attach to something else to gain an ability, so that would have been kind of hard to do. Alright, then let's look at some other cards. We have Rouge Jacket. Item, when touched, is attached to a friendly character, Rogue gets 1 thwart. When it is attached to an enemy character, she gets 1 attacks. This is definitely a neat way to expand upon that touch card. So again, depending on what traits you want, depending on what special touched abilities you want, or a card like this fits out, you could make her kind of whatever you need her to be. She's a good jack of all trades character. So Rouge here breaks the one thing all the other X-Men characters have had going, where she's the only one that doesn't have a specific location. All the other X-Men characters had some sort of location, or even if it wasn't listed as a location as a trait, it was something like that. She doesn't get one, unfortunately, but it kind of makes sense because she doesn't really have like a home or a special spot to go to. Here we have 3 copies of Going Rogue. 2-cost event, Superpower Thwart, Hero Action Thwart, remove 3 threat from a team. If Rogue has Aerial, remove 2 additional threat. Retaliate, confusing enemy, or Stalwart, draw 1 card. I want to do something really quick here, which I don't normally do. But we're going to kind of scooch this off to the side so we can look at this at the same time, because it looks like it's going to make a big difference. Yeah, so if she attaches to an ally with touch, she has Aerial already. So she can remove 2 additional threats, so 5 threat for 2 is very powerful. She attaches to the villain, she can also confuse an enemy. Or if she attaches to a hero, she can draw an extra card. So again, makes her very versatile. We have 3 copies of Southern Cross. She's also beating up Sabretooth. Just funny because Gambit was too. 3-cost event, Superpower, and Attack. Hero action deals 6 damage to an enemy. Ooh, that's definitely powerful. And if Rogue has Aerial, deals 2 additional damage to an enemy. Retaliate, stun that enemy, or Stalwart, draw a card. Definitely goes up to 8 to a specific enemy. If you attach it to a villain. And the thing is, you can be attached to a villain, and you don't have to attack that villain. Or you can be attached to an ally. You don't have to attack who you're touched to, is what I'm trying to get at. We have 2 copies of Energy Transfer. 2-cost event. Superpower, hero action. Attach touch to a character other than Rogue and deal 2 damage to that character. Heal 2 damage from Rogue and ready her. You gain each of the attacked character's traits until the end of the round. Cool. Yeah, so you can basically just use this to like then attach it to somebody else when you need to. Dealing 2 damage is nice. You might finish someone off. If not, it's a nice quick healing ability. 2 copies of Bulletproof Bell. 1-cost event. Defense, Superpower, Interrupt. Hero Interrupt, Defense. When enemy touched attached to it attacks, prevent all damage from that attack, and gain a tough status card. Sugar, y'all doing is making me mad. That was a little bit better southern accent. I'm not from the south, if you haven't gathered. I'm very north. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, this is neat because it's like all the other ones are like gain different effects depending on who you have it attached to. Even if you're not doing something to that character. This one's specifically like, hey, throw it on an enemy and they can't do any damage. It's either you can use your hero action at the beginning of your turn with your main character to play, or use that other card to forcibly put it on somebody else if you know they're about to attack. Maybe like a new guy came in during the middle of the round, move it over to them, do that. Alright, then we have our final 3 cards for her personal deck. Superpower Adaptation. She's absorbed Colossus here. If touch is attached to a friendly character, search its owner's discard pile for an event that belongs to the same classification as the character, identity specific, aspect, or basic, and add that event to your hand. Oh, that's crazy. She gets to basically steal someone's card. So that's cool. Yeah, so if you attach it to, like, if she attaches it to Gambit, she can specifically take one of Gambit's cards. You attach it to a protection character, she can get a protection event. You attach it to a basic character, she gets a basic event. That's actually a really cool idea. The identity specific is going to be a little bit more interesting because not that you couldn't use them, but there are going to be some characters where they could have an effect that works really weird if you take that character's ability, because they might, you might not really gain any bonus of it. Like a good one to think of was again, because we just went over Gambit's deck, is he has one that's comes into play, put a charge counter on him, and then it does 0 damage because he has to discard charge counters to it. So for Rogue, discarding, she wouldn't have any counters, and you wouldn't put a counter on Gambit. Like that would be a rule question. I just want to actually just show off that card. I don't often look at one character's deck from another, but because this is a specific thing, it's worth pointing. So, yeah, so like if she played this card, it says place 1 charge counter on Gambit, then deal 0 damage, 0 damage, 0 damage. So the question would be, does she get to place a charge counter on Gambit specifically, and then Gambit, but then she does 0 damage, 0 damage, 0 damage. So that's, why you would really want to do that, because he has other better cards to probably do that for. Or would you place 1 charge counter on her, but then she doesn't have an ability that lets her sacrifice that charge counter? So, like, would it replace, like, would Rogue's cards replace their names with other players' names? Yeah, there's nothing in the rule clarification. They just have about finding the touch card. It says you're instructed to find your cards for each game area where that card could be found. Deck, discard pile, wherever. And then the other one has to do with taking control of a specific card. Not that. So that'd be kind of an interesting rule question to wonder about. Alright, we're going to hop into our next set of characters, which are our protection. So we have our protection allies. We have Iceman. So definitely hoping he becomes a playable character at some point. Bobby Drake, 3-cost ally for 3 health, 1 thwart, 2 attack. X-Men. Iceman enters play, 3 freeze counters on him. Response: after a minion enters play, move 1 freeze counter from Iceman to stun that minion. So that definitely makes sense. He gets free stuns on people. That's a cool ability. Then we have Karma. Giant Koiman. So this is one that's maybe kind of odd because I don't recall Karma and Rogue doing too much together outside if when they were on Utopia. It's very possible. I don't have a lot of the stuff from that time frame. But at that time, she kind of did take on like a teacher slash leadership role, so she might have had Karma on her team. Otherwise, this could be a reason to get some of these other characters in the game. Like Iceman makes sense because Rogue and Iceman were part of Gold Team together. Blue Team, I think it was. And then then also like for a while, like when Iceman was being controlled by Emma Frost, or had Emma Frost in his body. Rogue and Gambit kind of did stuff together, and then they kind of, it's always been a thing. They've kind of been like together. So we have 4-cost ally with 1 hit point, 0 thwart, 0 attack. Sonic X-Men. Response: after you play Karma from your hand, choose a non-elite minion. While Karma is in play, take control of that minion, and is treated as controlled. A controlled ally with a blank text box. Its thwart is equal to the printed steam, and takes 2 consequential damage after it thwarts or attacks. Okay, that's kind of cool. So she just basically, this is what her mutant ability is she takes possession of someone's mind. So you pick a non-elite enemy. It's treated as a controlled ally with a blank text box. It doesn't get any of its special abilities. Its thwart is equal to its steam, and its attack, of course, is equal to its attack. And it has 2 consequential damage. So most minions would probably die after 1, maybe 2 attack. So we have a frequently asked question on here, which says, I do want to look at this because it's specific to this card. If I take control of a minion with Karma's ability, what happens to any attachments on that minion? It says when you take control of a minion with Karma's ability, any attachments on the minion remain attached. However, that minion loses the minion card type and gains the ally card type. Any abilities on them attachments that affect the attached minion no longer apply. So they stay attached to that card. So if they have an attachment that says attaches to a minion or whoever, they keep that attachment. But because it has to be attached to a minion to work, they no longer gain any of those effects. But basically that means is, so like she controls it, they have, like, if they had, for example, they were holding like a gun, they would still have that gun, they just wouldn't use it. They wouldn't gain the attack or bonuses on them. But then if for some reason she died, and then that guy would go back to normal, that guy would still have his card. Alright, our third ally is Armor. Hisako Ikiki, 2-cost ally and attack. So she would have made more sense almost in like a Wolverine deck. 1 thwart, 1 attack. X-Men. Play only if you're getting it as the X-Men trait and toughness. So this is a nice cheap X-Men character to get in there. Good luck getting through my impenetrable psionic exoskeleton. Cool. Just nothing wrong with an extra cheapy character. We have 3 copies of Unflappable. 1 cost upgrade condition. Play under any player's control. Response. After you defend against an attack and take no damage, exhaust Unflappable, draw 1 card. So this can work really well with her Bulletproof card because it avoids damage. Yeah, definitely interesting idea. It's not a bad card at all for someone that has good defense. We have 3 copies of Judo Cost Skill, 2-cost upgrade skill. Put 3 Judo counters, max 1 per player. Interrupt when you defend against an enemy attack. Remove 1 Judo counter from here. That enemy's attack gets -2 for that attack. So this would work really well with that because you could minus their attack. Then that way you could probably survive it quicker. Definitely a neat idea. This is the 3rd card in a set that's had counters. Just to point out. 3 copies of Preemptive Strike. 1 cost event. Defense. Hero Interrupt. Defense. While a boost card is turned face up, or when a boost card is turned face up, while a villain attacks, cancel all boost icons on that card. Then deal 1 damage to the villain for each boost icon canceled this way. Ooh, that's a nice fun protection card. Yeah, not only canceling their extra bonuses, but also dealing damage to them. And plus it says, when it's turned face up, so you can kind of see it before you play this. You can interrupt that, so you can like, oh, if it's 1, I don't want to waste it. It's 3, definitely need to use it. So definitely cool there. Then we also have 3 copies of Not Today. Defense, Hero Interrupt. When your hero defends against an attack, it gets +2 defense for that attack. If you take no damage from that attack, remove 2 threat from the steam. Again, good defensibility. You get an extra 2 bonus. And again, you could kind of combine some of these together, by getting yourself some extra defense and all that. And then our last 2 are defensive energy. Hero Interrupt. When you spend this card to play a defense event, draw a card. And this is a new cycle they have for each of the different colors. Basically getting an extra card for playing a card that specifically has to do with that, but it also works as your extra resource. So the protection cards in and of themselves are really cool. It's always fun to have more different cards, extra things. Now, that being said, it doesn't seem like they really work with Rogue specifically very well. Rogue her abilities are kind of like, hey, gain bonuses from doing this and this and this. She doesn't have like a set course. You get some characters are like, you can see where there are lots of attacking, or there are lots of defending, or thwarting, or how they're doing it. She's kind of all over the board. So I honestly want to say I almost wish they had her have a smaller aspect deck and a bigger basic deck, giving her more freedom. Like that, I kind of wish they would have done that and just kind of changed it up for her. But that's alright. You know, that's how you can mix and match her. So we do have some basic cards. We have Moira McTaggart, 2-cost support persona. Play only if your identity has the mutant trait. Response: after a mutant alter ego changes to its hero form, exhaust Moira. That hero controller draws 1 card. Definitely a very powerful persona card. Having extra cards is always advantages because you can pay for them for resources or just give you extra things to do. Especially after you change from your to your hero size, because your hero always loses a card, at least 1 card when they go from alter ego to hero. So that's definitely helpful as well. Again, thematically wise, not really sure why this is in a rogue deck. It's almost like they just picked rogue to throw in all the extra cards they didn't know what else to do with. But that's alright. We have 3 copies of X-Gene. So here's a good picture of Rogue observing Cyclops. Even though she's doing it wrong, I'm not really sure who approved this art, because she needs skin contact. Again, you could assume maybe she had just touched his face and her hand just went down, but it weirdly looks like she's just touching his chest. That's not how her ability works. Play only if your mutant identity has the mutant trait. Max 1 per player. Exhaust X-Gene. Generate 1 resource for an identity-specific event. So this is definitely cool because this could be put in every single X-Men deck to give them a free resource every turn. Especially a free wild resource. Definitely not bad to have. So it's kind of cool. Alright, then we have our team-up card, Beauty and the Thief. 2-cost event, attack and thwart, team up with Gambit and Rogue, max 1 per deck. Hero action, deal 4 damage to an enemy and remove 4 threat from a scheme. So definitely a superpower for a low cost. The condition to it being, for team up, you have to have it in your deck. One of your main characters has to be one of the 2 names listed. So either you have to be playing a Gambit deck or a Rogue deck to even include this. Then you actually play the card. Both of those characters have to be on the table. So it could be, I could be playing Gambit as a main character, and my other person could be playing Rogue, or I could be playing Rogue with Gambit as as my ally in my deck, or someone else could have Gambit as an ally if I'm Rogue, or any combination of that, as long as both Rogue, a character, whether it's a main character or an ally, named Gambit and Rogue are both on the table. Although, again, one of each player has to be either Rogue or Gambit. So now if you're playing Rogue and Gambit together, every time you draw this card, you'll be able to play it. You have both main characters out, so it'll be played a lot more often. Plus, you could both have a copy of it. But now, if I'm just playing Rogue and someone else is playing Wolverine, they could have Gambit, or I could have Gambit as my allies. We could definitely get it out. It's just going to be harder to get it out and play it. But it's definitely worth having these if you play them. But it's also one of them cards where, if, like, you don't want to include that ally, you don't have to. Although, again, with most of these characters, their signature ally is their team-up ally. So you're kind of going to already have it in there anyhow. Our last 3 basics are Energy, Genius, and Strength. Same as all the other double resource cards, just now with pictures of X-Men characters. Alright, so that's it for our basic cards. Let's look at our obligation, Deadly Touch. Give to the Anna Marie player. If touched, if touch is attached to a friendly character, deal 2 damage to that character, then discard this card. If touch is not attached to a friendly character, place 2 threats on the main scheme, discard this card. That's crazy. I love when they go, so like, I love when they make different designs for these obligations. Majority of the obligations are basically, give to this player and they exhaust they can't do anything for that turn, remove this card from the game, or like pay this cost or just do this to discard this for one turn. It's gonna eventually come back at you. So it's either minimum payment repeatedly comes back, or waste it, like lose an entire turn, like to get rid of it. So they make some like this that are kind of interesting because this pops up. It could definitely penalize you because once it comes up, you're probably not going to have any time or option to change who you're attached to. So it's either comes up, boom, 2 damage or 2 threat, and then discard it. And now you have to wait till it comes back up again. So yeah, it's kind of a neat combination. Alright, our nemesis, of course, has to be Mystique. Raven Darkholm, her mother. 1 steam, 1 attack, 6 health, Brotherhood of Mutants and Elite, toughness, and villainous. Force response. After Mystique engages you, search the encounter deck, discard pile, and set aside area for a copy of Misled Treachery, and shuffle it into your deck. Interesting. So we're going to shuffle that in. We'll see what that does in just a second. Mystique's manipulations. Well, she knows Mystique can't be trusted. Rogue finds it hard to reject the woman who raised her. When defeated, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a copy of Misled Treachery and shuffle it into your deck. Alright, so this is going to focus a lot on putting this Misled card into your deck. So what does that do? We have 3 copies of it. Treachery, Shapeshifter. Ooh, so that kind of works again if you're playing Mystique as a main villain, too. When revealed, shuffle this card into your deck. This card gains Surge. Okay, so we have multiple ways it's going to force it in there. If it just happens to come up, it's going in there. This card wants to be in your deck. Force response. After this card enters your hand, place 2 threat on the main scheme. You may discard this card from your hand at the end of the player phase like any other card. Yeah, so it's not terrible. It's 2 threat, but you don't have an option. It's stuck. So like that could come at a really bad time and hurt, potentially finish off the main one of the main schemes if you don't want it to. Plus it also wastes a card, one of your card draws for the turn. Yes, it's not the worst one ever, but it's still a pain. Alright, then we have Rouge's deck, just showing up all the cards in case you wanted to see what was all in there. And then we'll jump into our extra cards. Alright, we have 3 copies of Meglab, so in leadership card. So location. Max 1 per player. Response. After an ally is defeated by consequential damage, exhaust Meglab. Place it here. Limit 1 ally at a time. Alter Ego action. Exhaust Meglab. Place the ally here as if it were in your hand. Play the ally here as if it were in your hand. It enters play exhausted. Okay, it's actually a really cool disability in general. Even better for leadership because you have more allies out. But yeah, so your characters, every time they attack, they tend to have that consequential damage. So like Iceman here, so if he attacks is at 1 little star bullet, he'll take 1 damage. So this is a good way to let you attack freely with these characters, because then when they die, they can put them on here, and then you can use one of your actions just to exhaust this to play it. But you still have to repay its full cost. It doesn't enter any cheaper. Although if you have other things that make things cheaper, like Avengers Mansion, or cards like that that let you play your cards cheaper, you can definitely use those as well. Yeah, definitely a cool card. Then we have a new encounter. We have the Reavers. Again, I know that Rogue was in the part of the Outback team, which are Australia, which did fight the Reavers, but it also, again, feels like something maybe it would have been more thematically tied to Wolverine, but I think he had Lady Deathstrike, which makes more and more sense with him than anybody else. Because the Reavers are also just a mutant enemy. But yeah, definitely cool. So you have Donald Pierce, 1 steam, 1 attack, 6 health, elite Reaver, teamwork Reaver, and villainous. Force response: after Donald Pierce engages with you, reveal the topmost Reaver minion on the discard pile. Great, because we really want to reveal cards. We have Skullbuster. I love this one because it's a group of characters instead of just one big guy. 2/2, 5 health, Reaver with teamwork, toughness. Force response: after Skullbuster engages with you, place 1 threat on the main scheme for each Reaver minion engaged with you. Who you gonna call? Oh yeah, so yeah, that can get very bad very quickly if they gang up on you. Bonebreaker, 1 steam and 3 attack, 5 health, teamwork and toughness. Force interrupt: after Bonebreaker engages with you, take 1 indirect damage for each Reaver and minion engaged with you. Bonebreaker's ready. His bottom is a tank. You can't tell it really well in the artwork, but yeah, he has a tank for a lower half. Wig Cole, 1 steam, 2 attack, 3 health, teamwork Reaver. When revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a copy of Cybernetic Enhancement attachment and attach it to Wade Cole. So he's gonna boost himself up. And then Murray Reese, 1 steam, 2 attack, and when revealed, search the encounter and discard pile for a copy of Cybernetic Enhancements, attach it to Murray Reese. Shuffle. So both of those guys will get a copy of that, and we'll look at that one in a second. We have... Yeah, so we're missing 1 big main Reaver. It is Pretty Boy. He would be the big one we're missing. But there might be other ones. This is kind of a neat idea where they could eventually add, like... I would love to see more extra decks to this thing. Like, maybe you can call it, like, Reavers Plus, you know, and then they could add, like more Reaver cards. Kind of the same way like they did the Acolyte set. There are more Acolytes they couldn't include. Or some of the other teams like that, where there's, like, they only put, like, 3 or 4 characters, and there's a lot more they could add. It'd be cool if they added more. So we have the Reaver side scheme. When defeated, the player who defeated this scheme discards cards from the encounter deck until a Reaver minion is discarded and reveals that minion. Otherwise, just makes you draw an extra encounter. And then we have 2 copies of the Cybernetic Enhancements, plus 1 attack and tech. Attach to a minion, otherwise this card gains Surge. Attach minion to not take damage. What? Force response: after attached minion attacks, discards Cybernetic Enhancements. Okay, so that's not so bad. You just can't take damage until they attack. Okay, I was like, oh, they can't take damage at all. That sucks. So just a read over the teamwork trait. Says, after a minion of teamwork enters play and engages with a player, if there's at least 1 other minion that shares a specific trait in play, each minion that shares a teamwork with the same specific trait activates against the player it is engaged with. Yeah, so I just wanted to repoint that out since. We'll pull up Donald Pierce here. So he has teamwork Reaver. So it's saying, when he enters play and engages a player, if there's at least 1 other minion, so any other Reavers, each minion that shares that teamwork with the same specific trait activates against the player it is engaged with. So when he comes in and he's like, boom, I'm going to attack, Rogue on this turn. If 3 other ones are out, they're all going to attack. Now, if they're all attacked you, that is going to suck because these guys have a lot of bonuses when they have multiple Reavers attached. So that could definitely be very powerful. Alright, so that was all we had for the Rogue set. Again, this is the final one, at least as of right now, for X-Men. They actually, as of this video, they haven't announced any more sets that this just got released, so hopefully they'll have some updates. Usually they spoil for quite a ways out, or at least the next set or two you get an idea. But we don't know what's coming out next. It could be anything. Again, my guess is potentially Fantastic Four. It's the one big team that hasn't come out, but I could see them maybe leaning towards other ally teams that they haven't done, because like again, they've had Avengers, we've had Guardians, we've had X-Men, and we've had some Spider characters. So I can see them maybe spending a year doing like just boosting up some of them teams, maybe doing some like an Avenger here, but maybe boosting up some of the other side characters. Like we've only had a couple of Asgardians, so I could definitely see them adding some more of them. Maybe even like Loki as an Asgardian. I could see them doing more Wakandans, especially with, like the Black Panther movie and everything. Maybe adding like Shuri as a character, something like that. You can see they've had Champions and Inhumans in there. You can see them maybe throwing some of them out. What else? Always more X-Men you can definitely add. There's never a shortage of them. More Spider-Verse characters, because they've added some brand new ones there. Definitely lots of stuff they could do. So we can only hope to see. See you guys in the next video. Bye.